you know, we're happy and it keeps us happy.
There's a lot of goodies packed in this small little closet. I'm Linda Bergmann. I crochet, I knit, I love, right now my biggest love is quilting, but I do all sorts of other things. I made baskets for a while. I've always been creative. I've always been around creative people. My grandmother, my mom's mother, she crocheted, she did handwork, she, you know, cross stitch. She would come every Sunday for dinner and you had to show her what you were working on that week. And if you crocheted something and it was too tight, she'd pull it out. Too tight, redo it. You know, if it was too loose, redo it. Next week it needs to be perfect, you know, it needs to be good. But that taught me, even though at the time I was like, Grandma, like it took me a whole week to make those 3 inches, you know? She said, yeah, but next time you'll do it right. You want it to be right.
I'm Nancy Barnett. I met Linda through the military. Our husbands both in the military. I started sewing when I was 7 years old. I would sit at my mom's feet and she would sew and I'd take the scraps of fabric and I'd sew them to my dolls and to my Barbie dolls. And then as I got older, and I think I was about 12 years old, my parents didn't have a lot of money, so I learned to make my own school clothes. Linda taught me in 1995. Mm-hmm. The church group was doing what they called a friendship quilt. Linda's like, I've got the fabric and everything. You don't even have to do that. You just come over to my house when you get off work, put the kids to bed, and then you can come over and I'll teach you to do this. And I'd go over, 7, 8 o'clock at night, and we'd be up till midnight sewing, and then the next morning I'd get up and go to work.
And then there's Lori.
We've known each other for how many years since you've been here?
2001.
2001, so
20 years.
20 years. And then met Nancy through Linda.
Mm-hmm. I would come down and it took me a couple of quilt retreats, and that's how I met
But didn't really get to know her until she moved here, which is
9 years ago.
Awesome because it works well, it melds well, and we do well because we bounce things off of each other. And we're not afraid to try something. We're not afraid to
And we're not afraid
get
to
our
say,
feet wet.
oh no, that's ugly, don't do that.
And we're not afraid to...
Or you messed up there, take it out and do it right.
Yeah. I am known for taking a seam out 5 or 6
like
times.
a microfiber off. It's like, Lori, seriously, move on and put the next piece on.
And I say the points have to match. So every now and then I'll say, it's a little Amish movement, but...
Yes, because the Amish say that nothing's perfect except God.
Except
so
God.
The Amish actually put a mistake in their quilt.
They do every time.
So it's not
So
perfect.
it's not perfect.
And I always say, we work on things this close. We see every flaw, every stitch that's missed. But when I show someone and they stand back and look at it and they think it's perfect because they're not this close to it.
That's right. I think what I enjoy most about what I do is it is so gratifying to see when you finish just one block and the entire quilt requires 20 blocks.
Yeah.
You finish one block and you can just visualize the rest of it. You know, they say an idle mind is the devil's playground. Mm-hmm. So keep it busy.
And we keep busy.
And we keep busy. And we solve all the world problems while we do it.
We call them our stitch and bitches.
We call them our stitch and bitches.
We stitch and we bitch. So this is my studio. I call it my studio now. That's crazy. This is where I have all my fun. All stuff happens up here. All sorts of stuff. And sometimes when the girls come over to Stitch and Bitch, we'll all 3 come up here. I'll be sewing. Someone will be embroidering. Someone will be doing handwork. And we just all pile in. I have a TV. We watch TV, you know. Do all sorts of stuff. I'm a Bernina girl. So are Nancy and Lori. We've all had other brands, but we love our Berninas. And actually, last year, Pete outfitted me with a brand new machine that I was able to get the embroidery machine and I got a new serger all at the same time. So it was like I had like the trifecta of updates for my sewing room. In here is all the stuff for a quilt that I'm working on called Women of the Bible. Lori, myself, and Nancy are all working on this, but we're all doing it in different colorways. And don't ask me why. These are not colors I normally choose, but I'm using these colors only. So every block, you know, each block is got blue, pink, purple, or gray. So this is eventually going to be a king-size quilt. So there's 40 women featured in this quilt. So I'm already thinking about some really awesome label I'm going to put on the back of it to acknowledge each of those 40 women. That's my cream go-to closet, and my red, white, and blue, because I love everything red, white, and blue. This is my poor flamingo that needs to be quilted. There's a lot of goodies packed in this small little closet. This is all my batiks. These are the hand-dyed that they do in Bali. And then there's like a section you can see, like the wall that this shelf is in front of is like a dead space in that closet, you know, because you can't really put a shelf back there, you can't reach it. So what my ingenious husband did is he put a pole going this way. So hanging on the pole, so these are all quilt tops that need to be quilted, and there's 50 of them packed in there. My dad used to say, Linda can put 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag. That was my claim to fame. So I use every piece of space that I can find. On the bottom are all my Christmas quilts that I bring out at Christmas time. The whole downstairs, wherever you see a regular quilt, at Christmas time, it's Christmas. Every space gets taken by a Christmas quilt. I also have a machine. This machine does embroidery. So this is embroidery only, so I can set it up and it machine embroiders, so I can put in a pattern and it'll stitch it out embroidery wise. So just to give you an idea, I love to do freestanding lace projects. There was a lady on Instagram who was doing these free Christmas designs, and you could hand sew, you could really do whatever you wanted with them. So I thought, well, I wanted to learn my computer software a little better. I had taken some classes, but I wanted to like practically put it together and like, okay, they told me I could scan in something, set it to stitches, and be able to stitch it out on my machine. So I scanned in the designs, I digitized them, meaning I put it from being flat on a piece of paper to where my software can put it into something that my machine recognizes, and it would stitch it out. So instead of hand stitching like red work or whatever, it would stitch it out on my machine. So each of these was just you got on her website and you downloaded the file. So I would click from here, 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 and make a line. So I would, you know, click the areas that I wanted to be green and I'd set it green. Click the areas that I wanted red and I'd make it red. And then I decided, instead of just doing a straight line like you normally do, like red work with just a straight line, I did a funky stitch because I wanted it to look a little funkier. So that's my newest Christmas quilt. I've already made one quilt with Our Lady of Guadalupe. There's another Guadalupe fabric. I find it and like I buy the rest of it because I'm like, someone may not know what that is and they may, you know, get rid of it or something, you know. There's a whole series of books about quilting people that get together and friends and how, you know, they're really actually good books. So my thoughts on if someone wants to start quilting or cross stitching or whatever it is that you want to do is just do it. Just either now, I mean, before when I was younger, there was no such thing as YouTube. I mean, now you can get on YouTube and learn how to do anything you want to learn how to do. I mean, it's just, you have instructional videos. I didn't have that. When I wanted to learn how to quilt, there was a lady who was very big in quilting. She still is kind of a big name, but doesn't do as much as she used to. Her name was Georgia Bonesteel. She was out of North Carolina. And she had, her method was like Quilt As You Go, it was called. So it was like when you were finished piecing something, you were actually also finished quilting it. So I just bought one of her books and just started doing it. You know, just looked through the book, taught myself. I mean, I had already sewed. I'd already sewn clothes. We lived in, when I was first pregnant, we lived in a town that didn't really have a maternity store. We were in a very small town in Oklahoma. So I had to make all my maternity clothes. So that's what I did. I had the sewing machine my mom gave me that was hers, that she hardly ever used. My advice is if you want to start something, you're interested in something, number one, get a book, go on YouTube, surround yourself with people who are interested in that, take a class. I mean, there's so many quilt shops now, and just surround yourself with people who want to do that same thing, you know, and you'll be better for it, you know. You can't go wrong, you know. You're not going to hurt anything if you fail or if you find out you don't like it. Just move on to the next thing and find something that you love. Hand applique, and I even stitched everybody's name by their hands. Try to write something pertinent to the quilt. And so that's what I did for their quilt. And my mother slept on this bed in her grandmother's house. And so when the kids come, this is where we kind of put all the kids in here, and the boys love this bed. And John Henry will say, "Oh, Grandma, this is like the best bed." And I said, "Do you know that Grandma used to sleep in this bed when she was at her grandma's house?" And they were like, "Wow." And then my mom pipes up and says, "Gigi used to sleep on that bed in her grandmother's house." And they're like, "That's old." And actually, the lady who owned this bed, my mom's grandmother, this is a quilt that she made. And this is, I believe, this one's called the Barn Raising. This is like reproduction, like 1800s fabrics. This applique that's on here was all done by hand, by me. Because red is a color for welcome. That's why a lot of like colonial houses, that type, back in the day, would have red doors, because it was a sign of welcome. So traditionally in a log cabin block, you put a red block in the center. That's to welcome, to, you know, say you're welcome to the cabin. Something like this, it just makes me happy to look at it. I have certain quilts that I will just take, you know, they may be on a pile or whatever, but I take them out like periodically, every month, every 2 months, and I lay them out, just because the colors make me happy, or the design makes me happy, or a certain stitch I did makes me happy, and I'll just lay them out and look at them. I think it was Merry Christmas. I think it was Christmas. He says, "I made something for you," and then John Henry's like, "I did too, but I haven't finished mine yet."
But the fact that they did the very first one, they gave it
And
to
they
you,
gave it to
you
me. I know. It's a little Joseph. Little Jojo made that. And this was done with all my scraps. I didn't buy any fabric to make this, specifically to make this quilt. I had it all upstairs in my closet. I said, I'm going to make something where I don't have to go out and get anything for it. It's all here, no matter what. And this quilt just makes me happy. I love flowers. I love these colors. I love the batik fabrics. Okay, now we're about 1 mile down the road from my house is Nancy's place, and this is where our Longarm machine is, because she has this nice big room for us to put it in. We use a Handi Quilter Forte, it's called. So now we're putting on the back, we're attaching the backing to the machine, then we'll put batting, and then we'll put the top. So you can only quilt, you know, what's in between these two bars. So if your piece is bigger than that, it's going to be rolled. And once you finish what's in between the two bars, then you just unhook the tension, and then you roll everything to the back, so then you get to the next piece that isn't quilted yet, and then you just keep doing that till your quilt is done. So this is just a panel, which is just like a printed, and it's a United States of America.
You lock this in so you get a nice straight horizontal line to use as your guide to place the top and make it square. And then you lay the quilt top right on that line that she drew with the thread. And you have all 3 layers connected at the top. First, making sure it's nice and straight.
This one is
the games
where they can play tic-tac-toe, learn how to tie their shoes, tell time, and then down here, it's all made already. It's a piece of fabric that's actually, you can write on it with chalk. So this is a chalkboard, and there's a place for chalk to go here. And these ties tie to a little photo album. So I'm going to put family pictures so the baby can flip through and see pictures. And then this is a color caterpillar, so they can learn their colors. And then all along the edge, every single square is different, and we could play I Spy. So you could say, I spy with my little eye a bathing suit, and they have to look for the block that has the bathing suit. But my favorite is the shoes. The shoes.
Tying the shoes. This was the original fabric right here, and then you put them together, and it's like a kaleidoscope, cut in like this triangle. And then it repeats and it creates, depending on where you cut it, each one will turn out different. This one's going to hang on the wall and won't go on the bed. It's called the crown of thorns. But you sewed all the pieces onto a piece of paper and then you pulled the paper off, and that's how your points get perfect. This is wool.
Cotton
This is
background,
wool.
and all the flowers are made from wool pieces.
Random pieces of scrap fabric, no design. See it more in the detail on the back
Yeah.
than you can on the front. So this is my disaster. But you know, a clean room means nothing's getting done, right? Projects to be done. Find a passion, find something that makes you happy. And you know, because we have a hobby, crafts, if we get tired of knitting, we try crocheting, we get tired of that, we quilt, we do embroidery, cross stitch. We make trees out of felt.
Which was so fun.
We get to retreat and just enjoy friendship. But that's the best part for me. It's just being with my friends, doing what we all have a passion about, sharing ideas, doing things together.
Bouncing ideas off each other.
I like the part where we laugh until we cry.
Oh, that too.
Because that's always good.
And at night we wind down with
a little
Cheerio.
A Cheerio. You know, we're happy and it keeps us happy. I mean,
And our husbands don't care because
we're happy and they don't.
mine ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.